Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to another session of Economy This Week, wherein we take important economy related articles which have appeared in different newspapers such as Business Standard, Business Line, Financial Express, etc., and analyze these particular articles. Today's session, I'll be covering the articles which have appeared in different newspapers between 26th June to 2nd July 2025. Now, before I start the discussion, certain very important announcements. One, once the session is over and the session is available on YouTube, you can go to my Telegram channel, the QR code for which is provided here. The PPT's PDF as well as the notes of the articles covered in this particular session will be made available in the Telegram channel. Second, on the 5th and the 6th July 2025, we are going to conduct an Academy's UPSC Summit. During this particular summit, various experts with wealth of experience will be conducting sessions. Educators will be conducting sessions. I know a lot of you who are appearing for the civil services examination in 26 and 2027 who have already started the preparation will have lot of doubts. You'll have doubts regarding is it the right career path for you? You'll have confusion regarding what should be the right strategy for, let's say, subjects such as Indian economy or for that matter, Indian polity, etc. So, educators will also be taking the strategy sessions. Please do join. The link for the registration is provided in the description below. Use the link. Now, before I start the discussion, if you like this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you yet to join our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Let me start. The first article. The Union Minister for Road Transportation and Highways, Mr. Nitin Gadkari, has announced that the Government of India henceforth will not be continuing with the TOT model. What is this TOT? What is the reason behind this announcement? What is the connection to the Indian economy? Let's understand point by point. Point number one, there is a concept called as the monetization pipeline. In short, it is NMP or National Monetization Pipeline. Under National Monetization Pipeline, Government of India has identified various sectors wherein the respective ministries will be using the assets which are already present to generate certain amount of money. How so? Are they going to sell these assets? Absolutely no. For example, let's say the road infrastructure. The Ministry of Roadways and Transportation, imagine there is certain road infrastructure. This road infrastructure, let's say, will be leased out, to a private sector company, let's say for a duration of 20 years or 30 years. And once the project is leased out or the infrastructure is leased out, the private sector will be allowed to collect the tolls. The private sector operator will pay certain amount of money to Government of India, and the government will be utilizing this money for various other purposes. Now, the benefit of all of this is, in this example, the government or let's say the Ministry of Roadways is not selling away the asset. Unlike, let's say, Air India, where the government of India sold the asset to a private sector company. Here, the government is not selling the asset. Rather, the right of usage. Remember this, right of usage is given to a private sector operator. That is essentially the concept of national monetization pipeline. Under national monetization pipeline, different models are being used by the ministries. Now let's be focused only on the Ministry of Road Transportation here. There is one model called as toll, operate, transfer. I'll repeat the expansion. TOT simply means toll, operate, transfer. There is also one more model called as a hybrid annuity model, which is more associated with PPP, public private partnership. There is a one more model called as a INVITS, infrastructure investment trust, etc. So different models are being used by the Ministry of Road Transportation to use the infrastructure assets. That is the road infrastructure projects. Now, out of all of these particular project types, In fact, there is one more type of a monetization model which is called as a toll securitization. I'll come to that also, don't worry. Out of all of these types of models which are used by the ministry now, one of the model the minister says we will discontinue this. We will not be using this model anymore. What is the reason cited? The minister simply says under the toll operate transfer, the private sector operator, that is the company, will pay certain amount of money upfront to the government, will get the right of collecting tolls operating these highways for certain duration, let's say 30 years. So for the next 30 years, the private sector operator will keep on collecting tolls, generating revenue, and certain amount of money will be paid to government of India before they get the right of collection of the tolls. So the minister simply says in such a situation, the benefit is accrued. Majority of these revenues are being accrued by the private sector operator. The government is losing out because the amount of money that we are collecting upfront. The process is called as a concession. The concessionaire, concession period, etc. These are the technical terms. So the amount of money that is paid by the company upfront to the government is much lower compared to amount of tolls which are being collected by the private sector developer or the operator here. So the minister simply says benefit is going to the private sector company, not to the government. Hence, we want to discontinue. In fact, there's a second reason also cited here. The second reason is the minister says in these particular companies which are applying for the concession are getting the projects under the TOT, toll operate transfer. Lot of the investment in these companies is coming from the foreign market. Lot of foreign investment is flowing into these particular companies, which means the foreign funds are being used basically to apply for these projects, get the projects, operate the projects. Minister says government is not comfortable with this. So two practical reasons. One, lot of foreign funding flowing into these particular companies. And second one is the government is not getting the major benefit, the private sector operator. That's the reason the government simply says, henceforth, under the monetization, we are not going to continue the TOT model. And why is this important? Listen to me carefully. So far, in the last 3 to 4 years, out of the total amount of money that is collected by the Ministry of Roadways, more than 70% of the revenue has been collected or the money has been collected under the TOT model. More than 70%, which essentially means it is one of the most successful models being used by the Ministry of Roadways to generate or to get the value of the asset after monetization. So, what is the solution to all of this? The minister simply says, now we will reduce the reliance on TOT, we will shift to the model of infrastructure investment trust. Infrastructure investment trust. Now, what is the basic idea of an infrastructure investment trust? All of you, I'm pretty sure, have heard of mutual funds. In mutual funds, what happens? Investors will pull in the money. The asset management company, that is the experts, they will use the money to invest in different types of assets, generate revenue, and pay back, right? Let's say a certain amount of returns to the mutual fund investors or the holders. Now imagine the same model where different types of investors will pool in the money. The company will collect the money, use it to invest in different types of infrastructure assets. Invest in infrastructure assets. In this case, let's say roadways. And this particular company will generate certain amount of revenue and pay returns to the unit holders, that is infrastructure investment trust holders. So far, the National Highways Authority of India has so far floated a private infrastructure investment trust. Private, which means only the institutional investors are allowed to participate here. And very recently, the National Highways Authority of India stated that they will also be considering to float a public infrastructure investment trust, which means even the retail investor, such as you, such as me, now will be allowed to invest or will be able to invest the infrastructure investment trust that will be floated or launched by the National Highways Authority. So this is the new model that will be followed, or the main model that will be followed by the Ministry of Road Transportation going forward to monetize the road infrastructure assets. I said there will be one more term that I'll discuss here, that is a toll securitization model. What is the concept of a toll securitization model? In this case, instead of understand this, instead of giving away the ownership of the assets, instead of leasing out the assets, etc., the company which will operate the assets will be issuing certain instruments, just like bonds. They'll be issuing certain instruments, collecting the money today itself from the investors with the guarantee or with the assurance that in the future the revenue that will be generated in the form of a toll collection will be used to repay the investors. This model is called as a toll securitization model. Right? So this is one more type of a model which is being used by the National Highways Authority of India. Now, based on this discussion, I've given a question here. Let's solve it. Those who want to listen to the discussion, continue watching the video. Those who want to solve it first, pause the video. Solve the question and then unpause. Play the video. Consider the following statements. Under the TOT model, the ownership of the assets are transferred to the operator. Absolutely no. The operator doesn't get the ownership of the asset. The operator merely will get the right to utilize the asset. They will not get the ownership. Under the national monetization pipeline, the assets are sold to the private sector. No, here also same concept. The asset is not sold, only the right of usage of the asset is given to the operator or the private sector company. The National Highways Authority of India has launched Private Infrastructure Investment Trust for monetization of the road infrastructure assets. Yes, the third statement is absolutely correct. Right option for this question will be option A. Only one of the statements is correct. Now, let me go forward. Next article. Strategic crude stocks at 6 new location on cards. What are the important points here? Point number one, I'm pretty sure all of you know this by now. India is around 85% import dependent on the crude. Import dependent. Meaning what? Whatever is our requirement, 85% of this requirement, we will import it. And many of the times, whenever there is variation, whenever there is variation of the crude oil supply or the market prices, it will have an impact on the domestic market in India. And whenever there is a variation, most probably we'll see that because of certain external factors such as Russia Ukraine war, or right what is happening in the Middle East or West Asia, etc. Because of all of these particular things, the market prices of the crude oil goes up, and as a result of this, the import cost of the crude oil will also go up, which will have a negative impact on the Indian economy. Now, what is the solution to all of this? Is there any solution, at least in the midterm, or let's say at least in the short term? Is there any way to control this kind of a impact because of the volatility in the market prices? The government of India has developed something called as the Strategic Petroleum Reserves. I will repeat the full form. Listen to me carefully. The Strategic Petroleum Reserves. There is an entity called as Indian the Strategic Petroleum Reserves Limited (ISPRL), which is responsible for maintaining the strategic petroleum reserves in India. How much is stored right now? How much is stored at which places? There are three very important places. Please remember the places. One is the Padur, where 2.5 million metric tons of the crude is stored. After Padur, right, the second one is Mangaluru, right? So Mangaluru, where 1.5 million metric ton of crude is stored. And in addition to this, there is also Vishakhapatnam, where 1.3 1.3 million metric tons of crude is stored. So total amount of strategic reserves which is stored as of now at these three places which is operated managed by ISPRL is 5.3 million metric tons. 5.3 million metric tons. But are these the only places where the strategic petroleum reserves are stored? Is anybody else storing the SPRs? Listen to me carefully. In addition to this company or this entity storing this, there are oil marketing companies which are owned by the government. Oil marketing companies. These oil marketing companies also have huge amount of crude storage that is done. So put together, if you take together, how much is the strategic reserve stored under ISPRL as well as the OMCs? Around 77 days worth of requirement will be satisfied. Is it okay? The amount of crude that we will have will be sufficient to store or will be able to satisfy 77 days worth of requirement. In some cases or in certain time period, it will be 77. In certain time period, it will be 75 days, etc. But it is generally around 70 plus days. But what is the international standard? The international standard, according to International Energy Agency, is that the countries are supposed to have storage of at least 90 days. The countries are supposed to have storage of at least 90 days. And government of India, in fact, wants to achieve this now. And that is a precise reason. In addition to these three places, now the government of India has proposed, it is a proposal as of now. It has proposed to set up strategic crude stocks at six new locations. And what is generally done? When I say strategic crude reserves, these are essentially the storage places, the underground storage places. These underground storage places generally are set up nearby the ports or very near to the refining capacities or refining infrastructure that is there in India. Very nearby to the port or the area which is very nearby to the refining, right, let's say industries. And these essentially are used when the crude oil prices will go down. Remember this. When the crude oil prices will go down, we are going to use these facilities, store certain amount of crude. If there is too much of volatility of crude in terms of supply in the international market, volatility in terms of very high market prices. In such cases, the crude which is stored here can be used by the government of India to release so that supply increases in the domestic market and the market prices will stabilize. That is the reason now the government of India has asked Engineers India Limited, Engineers India Limited, IEL, Engineers India Limited to conduct a detailed survey and submit a report where all or which are these particular places where additional strategic petroleum reserve storage facilities can be developed. So these are certain very important points, important in the context of inflation in India, important in the context of the current situation in the international crude oil market. Now, associated with this, I've given an MCQ. Let's solve this. Consider the following statements regarding the strategic petroleum reserves. These are maintained by ISPRL. Yes, this statement is true. India currently has SPR, that is a strategic petroleum reserve of 100 days. No, it has around 75 to 77 days. India is the only country in the world to have SPR. Absolutely no. When before India developed, it was 10 around 10 years plus. 10 years ago, when the government of India for the first time, right, basically promoted the idea of a SPR and developed the first SPR facility in the Vishakhapatnam. But in the Western markets, even in other countries also, such as China, such as European countries, USA, etc., the concept of strategic petroleum reserve is a very old concept there. They have much, much higher reserves compared to what India actually has. So, first statement is correct. Second and third are incorrect. Right option for the question will be option A, Only one of them is correct. Associated with this, I've also given a question for you to practice mains answer writing. Look at the question. The recent spurt in the domestic inflation has been caused on the account of fuel and food prices. Discuss. Also, mention the measures undertaken by the government to control such type of. Always remember this in the context of India. Whenever there's a discussion about inflation, the two culprits, the two groups which are generally the usual suspects in terms of contributing to inflation are food and fuel. Food as well as fuel. In the recent times, because of unseasonal rainfall, because of international crisis in different regions, because of the uncertainty regarding the policies of various countries, protectionist policies, because of the trade war, etc., there is a rise in the crude oil prices. And this will have an impact on increase in the import cost of the crude oil into India, which will translate to higher market prices of petrol and diesel, which will translate essentially into domestic inflation. This is nothing but imported inflation for us. What are the reforms undertaken? For example, I'm talking about strategic petroleum reserve. It can be one example. Again, please understand SPR, one of the objective, minor objective is to ensure stability. That is, the supply will be there. In addition to that, the government of India is trying to diversify the import of crude oil. So, multiple reforms in the context of food as well as fuel have been taken by the government of India in order to ensure the impact on inflation will be reduced. Now, next article. Not for South Asia Unit of International Potato Center. International Potato Center. Point number one, listen to me carefully. Whenever you talk about potato, it is one of the highest produced commodity or a food commodity in the Indian market. The India's agriculture sector, generally the highest production for the cereals is done for the cereals, that is rice and wheat. Following rice and wheat within agriculture, which is the third highest produced, it will be potato. Please remember this. It will be potato. And after potato, there is a maize, there is a cassava, and the sixth one is sweet potato. And I'm pretty sure all of you know the difference between potato as well as the sweet potato. So, potato is the third largest agriculture commodity cultivated in India. Sweet potato is the sixth largest agriculture commodity produced in India. Even though the production is very large, listen to me very carefully. There is a problem associated with productivity. There is a problem associated with the productivity of these two. What do you mean by productivity? Per hectare, what is the potential for the cultivation? In case of potato, please remember this. The potential for the cultivation, that is the productivity that is possible that we can achieve, is around 50 tons per hectare. The potential is 50 tons per hectare. How much are we producing? We are able to produce around 25 tons per hectare. And in the context of sweet potato, how much is the productivity potential in India? 30 tons per hectare. And how much are we able to produce? Around 11.5 tons per hectare. And we can see very clearly in the example of both of them. Though potential of production, that is how much productivity we can attain, is very, very high, there is lower production, actual production is much lesser. In terms of per hectare, it is much lesser. What is the reason behind this? The reason behind this is the quality seeds are not available in India. We are not able to get access to quality seeds because if the seeds are of better quality, productivity can also be improved. And if the productivity can be improved, the production of both potato as well as sweet potato will be much higher. As such, there is a huge export potential that will be further promoted. And whenever you talk about potato, especially potato, in certain states, large number of households involved in agriculture sector are basically connected to cultivation of potato in India. So there is a huge connection in terms of export potential, contribution to agriculture, and right, let's say contribution to improved incomes as well as the food security of India's right, let's say total population. So what is the solution to all of this? The solution is very simple. Back in the year 2017, China set up a center. Remember this. In China, a particular center was set up, and that particular center was essentially South Asia region of International Potato Center. The South Asia region, that is a CIP International Potato Center in the South Asia, right? That is a regional center. CIP SARC. This kind of a regional center was set up in China. That happened in 2017. And over a period of time, China was able to leverage this kind of a presence of the center, use a better technology, etc. China is the largest producer of potato today. What about India? India is the second largest producer of potato. India is the second largest producer of potato. But having said so, I've already told you there is a problem in terms of productivity. We need to increase the productivity of this particular agriculture product. So the solution is very simple. How about setting up one more CIP SARC in India? The point clear to everyone here? How about setting up the International Potato Center, one more center of this particular right CIP in right, let's say India's system or within Indian market itself. And for that, land has been approved by Uttar Pradesh government. Central government has approved this particular project, which shall be set up in the district of Agra now. This center shall be set up in the district of Agra. And the whole idea is very simple here. Once the center is set up, we will be able to get access to better quality seeds. There's a technical term here, germplasm. Germplasm will be able to get access to a better quality germplasm. It could be cell, it could be seeds, etc. So, because of this, better quality inputs will be made available in India. And whether the when the inputs are better quality, automatically the production, because of a higher productivity, will start. And that is the importance of this particular article here. And before I look at the question which I've given associated with this, please remember this is one of the very, very important international research organization, the center for which is present in Peru. The headquarters of this is present in Peru. And the centers are spread across multiple countries. One more center will be set up right in the Indian market itself, which will focus on better quality inputs of the potato as well as sweet potato. And everybody is okay. But before I go forward, one more very, very important point. This is not the first time that this kind of an international research institution is going to set up a unit in India. This is not the first time. There is one more very important agriculture associated institution in the global market, that is International Rice Research Institute, IRRI, which is headquartered in Philippines. This is already set up in India. That is, the center is already set up in India. Back in 2017-18, the center was set up in Varanasi. Right, so these are all the very important points. Please remember this. Associated with this, a question. Consider the following statements. The CIP SARC will be the first international agriculture research institution to be set up in India. Wrong. I've already told you it will be IRRI. This has already set up its a center in Varanasi. It has been set up in Varanasi already. The International Potato Center is headquartered in Peru. Yes. The CIP was established in 1971. Yes. In fact, after establishing in 1971, in 1975, remember this point as well, there was an agreement signed between the CIP as well as Indian Council for Agriculture Research, ICAR, 1975. So second, third statements are true. Right option for the question will be option B. Only two of the statements are true. Next article. India imposes a land sea port curbs on jute from Bangladesh. What is the importance of this article? I'll tell you point by point. Please listen to me carefully. In recent times, the bilateral relations between India and Bangladesh have had a setback. They have suffered because of certain statements or the stance that has been taken by the interim government in Bangladesh. But in addition to all of this, the trade that used to take place between India and Bangladesh also has had a setback, also has suffered because of various issues. Now, the latest issue associated with the trade between India and Bangladesh is the jute that will be imported into India either through seaports or through land port now will not be allowed. There'll be right a curb on the import of jute and jute products from the seaport or the land ports that would be imported from Bangladesh into India. It is only allowed through one seaport that is present in Mumbai. Whatever other land ports are there, other seaports are there, through that, now the jute products or the jute, raw jute from Bangladesh will not be allowed to enter into. Now, what is the importance of this article? Please listen to me very carefully. India and Bangladesh both are part of SAFTA. Both are part of SAFTA, South Asian Free Trade Area. And under this particular trade agreement, the country Bangladesh is being treated as least developing country. And because it is identified as an LDC, many of the imports that will come from Bangladesh into India will not be attracting any kind of duties. Is everybody okay? I'll repeat the statement again here. Both India and Bangladesh are members of SAFTA. And under SAFTA, Bangladesh is basically identified as a least developing country, LDC. As a result of this, majority of the imports that will come from Bangladesh into India will not attract customs duties. And some of these products are jute and jute products. Now, on one side, right, the duties are not imposed. Duties are not imposed. These jute and jute products are coming into India. Now, not only this, the other problem is the government here in Bangladesh is providing lot of subsidies. It is providing lot of subsidies for these products which are entering into India. Now, to overcome this particular problem, what is the problem here? When the jute and the jute related products will get subsidies, right, will come into India without any duties, etc., automatically there is a danger that these will be much cheaper compared to the products which are available in India, such as let's say raw jute. In fact, it has been observed that the MSP for the raw jute which is offered in India is much higher compared to the price of the raw jute which will be landing in India from Bangladesh. So government of India looked at this, realized that there is a lot of dumping activity that is happening by the Bangladesh exporters in the Indian market. So government of India imposed anti-dumping duties. Despite imposing these kind of anti-dumping duties, the imports from Bangladesh have continued to thrive. The imports have come in large quantity as well as in terms of value into Indian market. And because this is cheaper, the farmers in India are affected by this. And the companies, many of these particular companies, they are not able to utilize their capacity. What do you mean by that? If the jute products are cheaper upon landing in India from Bangladesh, don't you think lot of these companies which would purchase a jute, manufacture a product, try to sell it in the market, they will not be able to produce because the imported products are much cheaper. So they are not able to utilize the capacity which is already present, which is basically raising certain doubts regarding the viability of their business in the coming years, in the future. So, looking at all of this, the government of India now, that is specifically DGTR, Directorate General of Foreign Trade, has announced that the jute products that are imported into India from Bangladesh, now they will not be allowed to come into India through land port or the seaport, except one port that is present in Mumbai. Done. So this is an update. Please be very, very careful. Now, associated with this, I've given a question here. Consider the following statements. Jute is covered under minimum support price. The statement correct. A lot of you will simply say, sir, there is no connection to this. You did not mention this in the article, etc. My dear, UPSC will have the right to do this to you. UPSC does this to you. Is jute one of the commodities covered under MSP list? Yes. India is the largest producer of jute. Yes. India exports jute and jute products. Yes. All the three statements are correct. Right option for the question will be option C. All of them are correct. Now, next article, the last for the day. After this, I'll give you assignment. The article from Economic Times. India has received a total of more than 135 billion worth of remittances. Important, please remember this. What is the importance of this? Point number one. The amount of remittances that India receives, it is the highest in the world. India is the highest inward remitter receiver in the world. Second is China. But for the last many, many years, India has been the ranked or the highest inward remitter receiving country. Second, in the last one decade, the amount of remittances that we are receiving has more than doubled. It has more than doubled. You can see, right? Let's say in the year 14, 15, 15, and 16, the remittances was in the range of $65 billion. And today, it is, more than $135 billion. So it has, almost doubled in the last 10 years. That is very important point. Point number three, generally the remittances are associated with the crude oil prices. Reason being, lot of migrants from India settle in the Middle East, earn revenue from there, send the remittances back to India. And if the crude oil prices are lesser, weaker, etc., the salaries, the wages, etc., they earn in the Middle East will also be affected. Hence, the remittances would also be affected. But this time, if you observe, the crude oil prices have moderated, but the amount of remittances that we have received has increased. In fact, last year it was 118 billion, and this, that is for 24 and 25, it's 135 billion dollar. The reason which has been given by Reserve Bank of India is that lot of this migrating population, it is a skilled population, it is getting good opportunities, good jobs, high paying jobs in Western countries. That is a developed economy. And that is a precise reason this linkage that was existing between the remittances as well as the crude oil prices has weakened now. So these are certain very important points associated with the inward remittances. And more importantly, the article also says the remittances account for around 10% of the total amount received under the current account. Around 10%. A very huge number, by the way. And this amount of remittances has been much higher compared to the inflow of the foreign direct investment into the Indian market. So these are certain very important points associated with the article provided here. Please make a note of all of these points. Now, last part of the discussion, assignment. As promised in the earlier sessions, I'm giving you two articles, both of them editorials. I want you people to read the editorials. I've given a question which is based on the information provided in the editorial. Please practice mains answer writing. The first article is associated with India Energy Stack. A lot of you might have not heard of this, but listen to me, this is very important. Reason being, the government of India set up a committee headed by Mr. Nandan Nilekani. And this committee is supposed to give recommendations regarding the strategy structure of India Energy Stack. So the question is simple. Discuss the need for an India Energy Stack and the measures undertaken so far to promote this. Read the article, you'll be able to write the answer very easily. One more. We have completed 10 years of Digital India. There were articles in different newspapers which have been attributed to the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi. So the article based on that, I've given a very simple question. Read the article. You can easily write the answer to this question. The Digital India initiative has helped India's digital transformation in the last decade by bridging digital divide and promoting inclusive innovation. Elaborate. right? A 15 marker question in 250 words. So these were the very important articles as well as the concepts associated with the articles as well as the questions on the concepts we have discussed in the article. If you like this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. If you are yet to join our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. And if any of your friends are preparing for UPSC or for that matter any competitive exam, and if they feel Indian economy is a difficult subject, please recommend these videos so that they will also get the benefit of these videos. That's it from my side in this session. See you again next week. Till then, take care.